What's up everyone, it's a Knife Saw here, and today I'm going to be doing my top 5 best additions to my collection in 2020. And I was going to do a top 10, but I figured, I'll just stick with top 5, make it a little bit more of the best ones that I've added. And I was going to do a video on best new knives of 2020 because I feel like a bunch of people are doing that right now. But then honestly, I looked at the knives I got over the course of this year and hardly any of them were brand new in 2020. The Sage 5 Lightweight might have been, but other than that, maybe the Hogue Deca, but I don't really buy a lot of the newest knife. And it's not really because I don't like them, it's just because I know what I like, and usually knives that are still going strong from many years ago are the best ones out there. And so I don't really want to experiment with a new knife that nobody else has tried, and so I usually just buy what I want, and I think that's what a lot of you guys do too. So that's why I wasn't really going to do a top or a best knives of 2020, just because I don't buy the newest knife every time it comes out. But anyway, the knives you're seeing on the screen right now are the honorable mentions. The Dragonfly, Manix, and Military. These are all knives that probably would make the list, but I just haven't used them enough to really say if they're my favorite additions. I really do like all of these Spydercos, and they're all in pretty different size ranges. In the Sage 5, it honestly just narrowing it down to 5, it just didn't make the list. So if there was a top 6, this would be on it. But anyway, let me clear these knives out of the way, and then we can start our countdown. So coming in at number 5, we have a knife that I got in about April, I think. This is the ProTech SPR. And as you can tell, this knife, or if you can see that, this knife has been reground by Alex Steingraber. And the reason that I got it reground is because from the factory, this thing was very thick behind the edge. It was about 26 thousandths behind the edge. And personally, for a knife of this size, that is just very impractical, and there really is no excuse for having a blade that thick. And I really do like ProTech as a company, but I feel like the one thing that they need to work on is their blade grinds. The grind on the Malibu looked a little bit better, but I never really got my hands on that one, or I might in the future because it looks like a compelling knife. But anyway, I just think that 26 thousandths behind the edge for a knife of this size, it's really just going to be a secondary carry for light EDC tasks. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So I got it reground. It is now 10 thousandths behind the edge, and that has made me carry it and use it a lot more. Because when I got this knife, it's like I like pretty much everything about this knife except for the fact that it was thick behind the edge. So now it is one of my favorite smaller knives that I own. I've had one extra change. It would be that even though the ergonomics are good for me and I can kind of get all 4 fingers on it, I can't really comfortably do it. My pinky finger can get on this little slanted area in the back, but it's just not all that comfortable. A lot of times I'm doing kind of a choked up pinch grip like this, or a draw cut grip like this, but a draw cut with this blade shape really isn't the best. But anyway, this knife is one of my favorite small knives. It's pretty lightweight, it carries very nice. This is a very well done pocket clip by ProTech. I'm a pretty big fan of aluminum. I really don't have any complaints with it, other than it kind of shows wear over time, which I think on a knife that you're going to use, I think a lot of people like the look of it. But anyway, that is number 5 on the list, the ProTech SPR. So on to number 4, this is another automatic knife. And the SPR and this LEDT were probably my first 2 really nice automatic knives. Before that, I really just had the Boker Strikes and Kalashnikovs, things like that. While they might be fine knives, I just really feel like you're getting a lot higher quality automatics when you're going with these USA-made companies here like Microtech and ProTech. But anyway, the LEDT was a knife that I heard a lot of people suggest who I really respect. And I'm glad that I was able to pick this up when I did, because they are kind of out of stock in a lot of places right now. Usually you can find them partially serrated, but I really hope that Microtech starts making more of these and stops focusing all their attention on those tiny little OTF California legal knives, because a bunch of people really like the LEDT and the SOCOM Elite. That's one I want to try in 2021, I guess. But the LEDT is a knife that does a lot of things right that a lot of other knives don't do. For example, it is very thin behind the edge with a pretty thin stock and a crown spine on here. And the crown spine doesn't have anything to do with it. I just like a crown spine, but this thing cuts very well. Yes, it's not a hollow grind. I probably like that, but with a knife so thinly ground, I can really appreciate Microtech. I feel like A bunch of companies just think that they should leave their knives thicker behind the edge and say that it makes the edge harder use, I guess. But the LEDT, I mean, this stands for Large Underwater Demolition Team, and Microtech is a company where their target audience is that hard use tactical world, and this knife is 10 thousandths behind the edge, and I've used knives that are thin like this and have not had any issues with the edge breaking or anything. So it's one of those things where I hope more companies realize that we don't need knives to be 25 or 30 thousandths behind the edge. But anyway, for the ergonomics, also this is just a very simple ergonomic lines, as you can see, just flat here, flat on the back, and it's very comfortable in pretty much any grip you can imagine. Comfortable in this pinch grip, which I do a lot, hammer grip, saber grip. I guess if you want to do reverse grip, it's also, oh wait, no, I guess that's a different grip. This grip is also comfortable, which I don't really care about that. But anyway, these knives that have very simple ergonomic lines really make it good for if you maybe have a different size hand than the average person, or if you just use different grips for the job that you do with your knives. Also, the pocket clip on this, it's simple but very effective. It does have the proprietary screws, which a bunch of people don't like. I honestly don't like them either because you can't take apart these knives, and a problem with them is the springs kind of frequently break. I had to ship this into Microtech for their warranty services. But I do think that this hardware kind of looks pretty cool in my opinion, but I would honestly rather just have basic Torx hardware that you could disassemble the knife with. But on to number 3 on the list. You guys are probably expecting this, the Spyderco Galil Bradley 2, and this is a knife that I really did not expect to like as much as I do. And it's a knife from Spyderco that really isn't like any other knives. I feel like the Sage 5 Lightweight is a good example of a very Spyderco-y Spyderco. It's just FRN, it's got a normal leaf blade shape with a compression lock and kind of fun to play with. You know, it's one of those things, or it's also got the wire clip. It's one of those things where I feel like the Sage 5 Lightweight is a knife that Spyderco excels at, and the Galil Bradley 2 is kind of out of their comfort zone, but they did a great job with it. Galil Bradley is a designer who really favors the utilitarian aspects and basically how functional a knife is. He doesn't really care about how comfortable it is to play with, or maybe how comfortable it is to play with, or really how it looks, but he is focused on how it performs in use. And this knife is a definite user for me, and it's just a great knife, and it excels in the aspects that user knives are good at. For example, just like the LEDT, this thing is about 9 thousandths behind the edge with a hollow grind, so it's very thin behind the edge. This is a very good cutter. This is my go-to knife if I have a bunch of cutting work to do, like breaking down a bunch of boxes. This drop point blade shape is just very simple. It's got M4 steel, which is great. This blade is pretty much perfect except for one thing, and that is this plunge grind. There's a smile there. It's just going to get worse every time I sharpen it. And I think a little bit of a recurve is starting to form. But I honestly might cut in my own choil. I really don't know. It's one of those things where I don't have the tools for it yet. I probably will get those eventually, but it's not that high of a priority on my list of things to do, I guess. The ergonomics on this, they also are very simple, kind of like the LEDT, and what that does is very comfortable in this hammer grip, this saber grip. One thing I appreciate that they do is they only have a little bit of jimping on the spine here, while some Spyderco knives, like the PM2, kind of have jimping all over it, and I feel like that is a really good thing. Also, the liner lock on this is very good. A bunch of people complain about the lock bar access, which if you're just playing with a knife, obviously that's not going to be very comfortable. But when you're actually using it and just pulling it out and opening it and closing it every time you actually need to use it, it's not a problem for me at all. And also, this is a very well done liner lock, very solid lockup on there. And I really think Spyderco does a great job with locks other than the compression lock. I mean, they do a good job with the compression lock, and it's a very good and smart locking mechanism. But I feel like they have some very other underrated locks, like their frame locks, the ball bearing lock on the Manix, and also the liner lock on the military is very good. But anyway, on to number 2. We have a knife that I just got, and so I guess it kind of throws the thing out the window where I was like, oh, the honorable mentions, they would have been on the list if I wouldn't have just got this knife. But anyway, for number 2, we have the Reeve on. And you guys, if you saw my sale video of the Sabenza 31, you guys probably saw this knife. I ended up taking that one down because the knife sold, and I didn't want to confuse anyone. But anyway, I picked up the Omnanzon, and this is a knife that I really like. Just look how cool this thing looks. I don't really care all that much about the looks. If you know me, I really care about how it performs. But just look at this blade. That double harpoon looks so cool. Even though I obviously don't need that, it just looks good. I like this milling on the titanium. It's just a little bit something different. And I think the Omnanzon is very neat how like simple it is, because there's one pivot screw and one standoff. And that just kind of amazes me. There is no stop pin, as you can see here, because the thumb studs rest on the titanium in the closed position, and they are the stop pin in the open position, which is just one thing that I can appreciate. And taking this apart was very nice and easy. There is some access to the lock bar. It is a little bit stiff, and so if you are just taking your thumb directly to here, it is a little bit uncomfortable, but I basically just use the pad of my thumb, and that works a lot better. Also, these thumb studs I really do like more than the Sebenza thumb studs. It's not as easy to flick as my Sebenzas, but it is a solid knife, and I'm really excited to put some use on it. It just seems like a knife that I'm really going to enjoy. Now, I'm not saying I'll like it more than the Sebenza, but I really do like the Omnanzon so far, and I feel like it's definitely my second best pickup of 2020. And for the best, I got to get this one out of my pocket. It's my Sebenzas. I just kind of looped these together because I didn't want to, take up 2 or 3 spots on here, but I got 3 Sebenzas in 2020. Like I said a couple minutes ago, I sold my 31 just recently because I wanted to clear up some funds for the other Chris Reeve knives. But here's my small Sebenza 21, just the plain Jane with the Insingo blade, and I really like this one, and it's one that finds my pocket a bunch, and pretty much ever since I got it, which was I think around 2 or 3 weeks ago, I have been carrying it and using it and sharpening, or I've sharpened it a couple times, honed it a couple times. But it's a knife that I've really enjoyed, and I think that it's going to be a knife that goes in my pocket a lot. This is probably my favorite knife in my collection, the large Sebenza 21 with the Insingo blade and micarta inlays. I just really like this. This is probably my favorite combo that there is, but these are overall just great knives. I love the Sebenza. I'll probably end up getting more, which isn't that good for my wallet, but the Sebenza is just, it's just such a good knife, and I highly suggest it. So that's going to do it for the video. These are my top 5 best acquisitions of 2020. Please tell me down below what your top 5 were, and if you don't want to write out the whole top 5, just tell me what your favorite new knife of 2020 is. But that is going to do it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Coming in the next couple of days should be my knife collection update. It's a video that I do every year, and my collection has really grown this year, and I think that is cool. And so be on the lookout for that. That's going to be a fun video to make. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.